Hi everyone, my name is Suze. I work with women to help them align their inner masculine and feminine energies, and in that alignment of the head and the heart, they're able to live really fulfilled lives. So today I want to talk about how to make decisions using feminine energy. And I know that that title might be a little bit confusing about like, what does that even mean, right? So let's get into it a little bit as far as making decisions, because for a lot of us women, and I know how I was raised and whatnot, how a lot of us we were taught how to make decisions is actually in a very masculine frame. And I mean, on some level it makes sense because making a decision is a masculine energy. Like a decision making is a masculine quality. But the problem is that when a woman with a feminine core, when you're trying to make a decision using masculine energy, it's too much of masculine energy, and there's again no balance. There's no balance between the head, masculine energy, and the heart, the feminine energy. So I have other videos where I really got into contrasting feminine energy and masculine energy so that this makes a little bit more sense. But in our society, it's really starting to be highlighted a lot, which is really great. But in our society, there really is too much of an imbalance of women trying to live their lives in a very masculine, structured kind of way. You know, whether it be how we were raised or the environment that we come from, or even just our society in general, whatever our life experience has been, it's always been in this construct that, creating a life that feels good and creating a life that's happy, it's done in a very masculine way and completely ignores the feminine aspect. And so, I've told in other videos my story of one day, it's just, my body just fell apart. My body fell apart. I had been living my life in masculine energy, using too much masculine energy, completely ignoring my feminine energy and my feelings for so long. My body just gave out on me, right? And that is what I'm seeing is the wake-up call for a lot of women. Some sort of physical situation happens where it really grabs the attention, and it's like that little voice that kind of bugs you. It's been bugging me for years and years and years. That little voice inside that was saying, something's not right here. Something's not right here. Having the physical body come alongside it and really show you something's not right here and really get your attention, that's where a lot of us women, myself included, started really allowing ourselves to lean back and to go into a more feminine energy framework for creating life, right? And it is a lot more authentic because it is balancing. It's balancing both aspects of who we are. And it feels a lot more empowering because you're allowing your emotions to really be seen and be heard to create a life that feels really good to you. And it's not so much about creating a life that fits into this little box of how it's supposed to look, or creating a life that doesn't ruffle feathers around you, right? A very codependent, people-pleasing kind of a life, right? It helps you really create that balanced, fulfilled, meaningful life where you feel respected too. So anyway, back to the idea of making decisions. I kind of went off there for a little bit, so coming back. Making decisions using feminine energy, okay? Let's back this up a little bit. I know in my experience, and I know with the women that I work with, we all come from a similar place of making decisions in the same kind of way, right? We learned that we had to make decisions by thinking about all the possible outcomes, right? Well, if I choose this, then this might happen. But then what if this happens? But then what if this happens? And then, as women too, we're so relationally driven. We have that inner core that desires connection, that desires peacefulness in our relationships, that it adds a layer of confusion to this over mental processing when making decisions, right? Because then you get into a place of like, okay, if I make this decision, how might that person react? Or I don't want them to feel this way if I say this, or I don't want this person to think this thing about me if I decide this, because that's not what I'm trying to do here. As I'm saying these things, I know. We've been trained to make decisions in a way that just doesn't work because it's too much mental processing and trying to reconcile two parts of our being in a very masculine way. So there's that little voice inside you that's like the feminine, the heart aspect is trying to be brought into the equation of making the decision, but it's really not allowed to show up, right? There's that inner knowingness that I want to create connection with those that I love. And I don't want to hurt the ones that I love. And I don't want to make a decision that's going to end up making a situation worse with someone, right? So it ends up being a decision-making process that's actually very manipulative. And I think for a long time, I didn't realize that's what I was doing. I didn't realize that I was being manipulative. But whenever you're looking at the outcome and you're kind of trying to create a decision to manipulate a particular outcome or control a particular outcome, you're ignoring what's happening here and you're more focused on the external of, I want this external situation to be this way, instead of looking inward and respecting how I need to feel, what state of being do I need to be in. And digressing for a quick minute, a lot of that comes into the fact that a lot of women have an anxious attachment style. An anxious attachment style is consistently looking outside of the self, avoiding the self, and being more concerned with the external situation, and thinking, not correctly, but thinking that if I can have the external situation looking a certain way, then I will feel okay, which is actually backwards, which is actually totally backwards. If I'm okay with me, the external will align correctly with me. And that's how it should be. I should be more concerned about maintaining the state of being that's important to me than worrying about how this external situation looks out there. It's backwards. So anyway, it ends up being a very manipulative process when you're trying to make decisions in a very masculine thinking frame of logically trying to analyze all the possible outcomes or all the possible situations that could happen if I choose this or if I choose this or if I decide this. It's backwards, and it creates so much mental turmoil and chaos, and it's wasting energy. It's wasting your precious energy, and it's wasting time, because now you're going around and around and around trying to make a decision instead of actually living your life and creating a life that feels really good. Okay? So coming into the masculine and the feminine frame, how do we create balance? How do we allow feminine energy to really come into the decision-making process, to create balance between the mind and the heart, the masculine and the feminine, to make decisions more quickly and to get back to living life and feeling better and not being confused with trying to understand all the possible outcomes when that's literally impossible. You actually don't know how someone's going to react to any decision you make. You can create all these possible scenarios, but you don't actually know for a fact how something's gonna play out in any decision you make. So it's more about you. Okay? So making decisions with feminine energy, okay? You have to decide that you have to make a decision, and that's simply the only place really where the masculine energy comes in. The masculine energy is the confidence, the self-worth aspect, the deciding to decide definitively, the decision to make a decision definitively. That's where the masculine aspect comes in, where you sit down with yourself and you're kind of like parenting yourself, really. And you're like, okay, I don't want to waste my time anymore going around and around about this. I need to make a decision and I'm going to stick to it. And that's where the masculine aspect comes in. Now, the feminine aspect can take over from here. However, you have to have done a little bit of homework ahead of hand. So a big piece of the work that I do with women is really creating some energetic words or feeling, emotion type words that they really, really resonate on a soul level. And that takes a little bit of digging. People don't realize it's not like a quick thing. It actually, I have a whole process for finding the words, the energies that you really, really resonate in your soul. So it's very individual from person to person. So I'm going to really abbreviate the process here and just say it this way. You have to first sit down with yourself before you're in the situation of having to make a decision, because that's just going to cloud this whole process up. When you're good and when you're clear, okay, and you're just sitting with yourself, maybe you're doing some journal time, maybe you're doing some self-reflection time, whatever, okay? You sit down with yourself and you decide 3 to 5 words. Let's start with 3. 3 words that are feeling type words of how do I want my life to feel? How do I want my life to feel? Now, obviously, it's not going to be perfect. You're not going to feel those things 100% of the time. But what are your priorities? What feeling words are your priorities? You know, one word that I keep, like, and you have to, as you go through your life, you're going to change these words and they're going to grow and evolve with you. But one word that I find myself constantly coming back to is calm. So I'll use that as an example. I want a life that feels calm. I don't want all that mental mumbo jumbo turmoil and chaos. You know, I'm also a yoga instructor, and one of the yogic principles is the principle of non-harming. Non-harming the self, not having that internal war all the time with the self. It's a key principle in living a yogic peaceful lifestyle, a Zen lifestyle. So calm is a good one, right? I want a life that feels calm. So we'll just use that word. So if I'm making a decision, I will plug in these feeling words into the decision. What's of the possible options that I see in front of myself right now to make this decision, which one is gonna help me support, that's a masculine word, what one is gonna help me support creating a life where I feel calm and I'm not in a constant state of fighting myself internally, mentally, emotionally, whatever it may be. And when you're making that decision, you have to think the big picture. I don't know if you can hear my cat. My cat is clawing behind me. If you hear strange noises in the background, that's my cat, Willow. She makes appearances sometimes. It's not an instant gratification. And I like to use the example of like a pint of Ben & Jerry's ice cream, right? Like, yeah, sure. Okay, let's say one of your words is happy. Okay, I want to feel happy, which when I'm working with women, I actually don't allow that word because it's not specific enough. It has to be a more specific feeling word, but I'll put that aside for a moment. If the word's happy, okay, so yeah, in the moment that you're not feeling great, here she comes, she's coming up. In the moment that you're not feeling great or you're feeling bad about a situation or you're sad or something, yeah, sure, in that exact second, eating a pint of Ben & Jerry's might make you think you're being happy. But if you follow that down the road, you know 20 minutes, an hour later, you're going to be guilting yourself. So it didn't actually bring you the feeling that you wanted, correct? It's not an instant gratification. I'm sorry, you guys. It's not an instant gratification decision. It's a big picture, overall quality of life. What decision is going to support the feeling word that I want to feel right now? I notice I'm in a place of needing to make a decision. I'm currently feeling this, the negative feeling word. I'm currently feeling confused. I'm currently feeling upset. I'm currently feeling whatever it is. Then pick the word of what you do want to feel. If I'm feeling this negative emotion, which one of my values of energetic words is gonna feel like a solution to this negative energy that I'm feeling? And then that's the decision you make. I'm gonna do a second video. She's doing something behind me. She's gonna knock some, I have heart rocks behind me. She's gonna knock some on the floor. I'm gonna do some more videos too, expanding this idea. This is just really the fundamentals of it because, you know, with feminine energy, making decisions really comes down to just 2 things. You have to decide if you're making connection or making a boundary. It's really simple. Making decisions can be a lot more simple than we make it on ourselves as women, and there are different things to plug in. But once you get used to this new way of doing it, it really simplifies the process. It calms you down. It feels so much more self-respecting, self-loving, self-worth. so much higher self-worth. So I hope that helped you guys. Just to recap it up, when you're good and you're calm, sit down. Those words, those energetic words of the values, of the words, the feelings that you really prioritize and align your life with, you can plug those into many different things in your life, not just making decisions. So I hope this video helped for you guys. Check out my other videos here on balancing your masculine and feminine energies. And thank you so much for stopping by. Have a beautiful day.